Hi, guys. I'm going to start with the blind woman. Granny Torrelli comes back from the bathroom, sits back down, and says, "Now, where were we?" "Bailey," I say. "We were talking about that Bailey." "See, she says, "Bailey. And what were you thinking about while I was gone?" I tell her about the plays, and then I remember another play, and I tell her about that one too. We were in the backyard, Bailey and me, when the idea popped into my head. "Let's do one with a blind woman and her husband," I said. Bailey waved a stick at me. "What are you talking about?" he said. "That's so stupid." "Don't you say it's stupid, Bailey. Why is it stupid?" Bailey waved his stick in the air like a wand. "Blind woman? It should be a blind man." "Why?" I said. "I can be the blind woman if I want to." Bailey threw his stick at my feet. "No, you can't," he said. "You don't know the first thing about it." I was mad. "That's just stupid, Bailey. Stupid, stupid, stupid. I can be whatever I want to be in our play. And if I want to be a blind woman, I can be the blind woman." Bailey turned and headed for the house. "Then go right ahead," he said. "Be the blind woman all by your stupid self." That Bailey. And so I did. I did a play all by my stupid self, and I was a blind woman. But it is hard to be a blind woman all by yourself, with no one to talk to but your own stupid self. It doesn't make a very good play. When I finish telling Granny Torrelli about the blind woman play, she smacks her lips the way she does. "Rosie, Rosie, Rosie," she says. "You're a stubborn Rosie sometimes." The next chapter is called Stubborn Streak. "You get that stubborn streak from me," Granny Torrelli says. "Yeah, sure," I say, thinking about my Granny Torrelli, always so calm, so patient. "Listen," she says, "let me tell you about stubborn me. Remember Pardo? Pardo with the name you think is so funny? Pardo found this dog. See, big, black, mangy looking dog, slobbering all over the place. The dog was so big, I thought it was a pony the first time I saw it. Pardo, he was going to teach that dog everything. Sit, heel, come, fetch. All day long, he was outside with the big black dog he named Nero, which means black, which goes to show you that Pardo was not the most, how you say, original boy. So he is out there making poor Nero sit and heel and come and fetch and completely ignoring me. Me, his buddy, his pal forever. And I did not like it. Not one bit. I got it into my head that I would make that Nero, that big black mangy dog Nero, I would make him love me. I would make him love me so much that Nero would want to be with me all the time. And then Pardo would want to be with me all the time too. And so let me start over. And so I asked Pardo if I can take Nero for a walk. And my plan is to take Nero to the woods and give him little chocolates. But Pardo said no. I can't take Nero because Nero is too big and will not obey me, and I might get hurt. And I am stubborn, Granny Torrelli says. I am so stubborn like a donkey. I beg Pardo. I plead. I whine. And finally Pardo says, "Benet." He says I can go ahead and take Nero for a walk, and I know he has said it only to shut me up. And so I take Nero and set off across the field. His leash is a rope, and it feels good in my hand. And then Nero starts running, galump, galump, like a big, huge horse thing, faster and faster. And the rope is pulling, and it is rubbing my hand raw. And I am yelling at Nero to stop, but he won't stop. And then I trip, and Nero is dragging me across the field and down the muddy bank and slosh into the creek. When finally I let go, and Nero races on, running to the woods. Granny Torrelli, sitting in our kitchen, looks at the palms of her hands as if she can still feel the rope burning. What about Nero? I say. Did you find him? Nero, Granny Torrelli says. There I am, all sore and muddy in the creek, and you were worried about that mangy black Nero? That makes me laugh, that Granny Torrelli. That dog, she says. I struggled through the woods all day long, calling that black mangy dog, and when it gets dark and I'm cold and hungry and bruised and prickled, I go home. I'm not wanting to face Pardo. I am not wanting to tell him I have lost his precious dog. I start back across the fields, and there are Mama and Papa and my brothers and sisters, and there is Pardo, and they are all coming across the field like a big wave of people, calling for me, and I want to cry. It is such a good sight to see. But then I see Nero loping along beside Pardo, as happy as can be, that black mangy dog. And everyone is saying, "Where were you?" And Blessed Mother Mary, you are safe. But I am only seeing that black mangy Nero slobbering beside Pardo. And I go up to Pardo and I punch him and tell him he has a stupid, stupid dog. Stupido. Granny Torrelli finishes her story and leans forward, placing both her hands flat on the table. See, she says, see how stubborn I can be? And we laugh, me and Granny Torrelli, there in the kitchen with the chickeny soup smelling so good. Tutto va bene. Granny Torrelli stirs the soup, takes a big sniff, and says, Tutto va bene. She says it like tutto va bene. It means all is well. I am thinking about Granny Torrelli and Pardo and the mangy black dog, and that reminds me of the dog disastro last year. And while Granny Torrelli is dipping the ladle into the soup and pouring the soup into the bowls, she is reading my mind. She says, Rosie, are you still wanting a dog for Bailey? I say, that Bailey, he can get his own dog. Granny Torrelli says, Puh, you're such a sassy Rosie girl today. And so I am thinking about the dog disastro as Granny ladles out the steaming soup. It started at school last year. A man came to an assembly with his guide dog, a beautiful, sleek, golden dog. And the man showed us how his dog was his eyes and how it helped him to get around the city and his house. And he said that even if he got lost, all he had to do was to say to his dog, find home, and the dog would lead him home. It seemed like a miracle. I wanted one of those dogs for Bailey. I went rushing home after school and racing up to the steps to Bailey's house and banging through the front door like a blast of wind. And I found Bailey in the kitchen. And I said, Bailey, Bailey, you need a guide dog. They're the most amazing things. You'll never be lost. You'll never bump into things. You'll never. And Bailey said, as cool as can be, Rosie, I know about guide dogs. What? I said. What do you know about guide dogs? You never told me anything about guide dogs. And Bailey, sitting at the kitchen table, crossed his arms and leaned back in his chair and said, not in a mean way, but in a kidding way, Rosie, do I have to tell you everything? And I said, yes, Bailey. Yes, you do. Now, what about it? Let's get you a guide dog. Can't, he said. You have to be 16. What? I said. Well, that's just stupid. 16? Lots of kids have dogs. Lots of kids who aren't 16. Not guide dogs, Bailey said. You have to know a lot of special things. You have to train. You have to blah, blah, blah. On he went with the rules about the guide dogs. When I left Bailey's, I went out looking for a dog. I had seen a stray mutt hanging around the delicatessen, and I went in search of it. No luck. Next day, looked again. No luck. Next day, looked again. Found him. Shaggy little brown and white, funny looking dog. I petted him, cuddled him, lured him home, snuck him into the garage, brought him meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and gravy leftovers. Wanted to do everything in one day. Sit, heel, stay. Mutt would not listen. Locked him in the garage, snuck out into the morning and fed him more meatloaf, took him out to do his business, made him a bed out of my pillow and an old blanket, went to school, came home, pillow in 1,000 shreds, blanket peed on, pooped by the lawnmower, took him out, sit, heel, stay. Dog doesn't listen. He runs, rolls, bites my shoelaces. Another week of that. Garage looking very bad. Smelling very bad. Mom starting to ask about disappearing leftovers. Little boy and his mother come to our door one day asking about a dog. Tootie is his name. They say, Tootie? It's the little boy's dog, and he lost it, and he's sad. They say someone down the street said they saw me with a dog that looked like Tootie. My mom says, Rosie doesn't have a dog, honey. We're so sorry. They start to go, hear barking. Tootie, the boy says. His whole face lights up as if someone has given him a barrel of chocolate. Boy and his mother head for garage. My mother follows. I creep behind. My mother opens the garage. Tootie, the boy says, and that Tootie mutt runs smack into the boy and licks him all over. And my mother is looking around the garage and gagging from the smell. And she says, Rosie, do you know anything about that? Tutto non va bene. All is not well. And that was the end of the secret dog business. I'm going to stop there and I will be back soon.